Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Milanistas 360 for a very special episode and something that hopefully keep everyone entertained in the world of AC Milan and football overall, I guess. So yeah, with me I have co-host to my right. I think you're looking at. Okay, sorry, my left. We John, Lab Gorilla from the UK,
How
and
you
we have
doing,
Shane
guys?
from very sunny Malaga in Spain. How you guys doing?
Good. Looking forward to this one.
Okay.
At least this should be more entertaining than the game last night. We're going to cover it in a bit, but Jesus Christ, that was awful. Yeah, yeah.
It was
So
bad.
yeah, just to kick things off, you're right, Chief. I think we're going to talk about the game because it happened just last night, and yep, 3 points. Uh, I for me it's quite early in the morning, so I managed to catch a big part of the game, but I managed to catch the goal, and I guess what can I say on my side is that we needed the 3 points. Yeah, the way in which we got it, I guess we'll discuss in a bit, but 3 points in the back. Let's keep the race for hopefully the second star ongoing. Even though some might still be skeptical whether it's actually within our reach. So John, yeah, just to start things off, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I thought the lineup was not great, but I've got my theory on these things. We'll discuss later on the direction that I think the club is taking, but I think priority is matches that can bring more money. So I think the lineup reflected that. Having Pobega in there starting, Jovic was really he had to start because Okafor had picked up, of course, an injury. Giroud is suspended, and so I did place a small bet on Jovic to score the first goal. He let me down, and actually he did end up having a good chance to score, which he didn't take. The game was we lacked control in the game. We kept giving away corners. I don't know if you guys kept an eye. I was keeping an eye on the corner count. It was incredible. They just if they had a informed striker, we would have been in serious trouble, I think, in that game. Um, Jovic did have an important contribution. He put on that pass to Theo, that defense splitting pass that where Theo then got tackled and knocked down. That was a clear penalty. And again, I was hoping that he'd give it to Jovic, like help me. But instead, he helped himself and a good finish. Um, to me, the best player was Manyan because he had to really pull off quite a lot of saves at the end of the game. Um, yeah. So what do you guys think? What do you think, Shane?
So, funny story. So, I was watching it in the bar last night, and I went to the toilet on the 45th minute, and then I came back and I seen that they scored. And then I had another beer, and I settled in for the second half. And the second half was pretty scary. I mean, it was like we were playing prime Real Madrid. You know what I mean? For a good chunk of that second half, and they were just completely all over us. Give them far too much control of the ball. This
Yeah.
isn't it. It's not game management to let a team that have the qualities of for a team that have the qualities of Fiorentina. You don't need to give them that much of the ball. I mean, it was like we were completely pegged back, and I don't care what you say, just that game management is just very poor.
Yeah.
Um, you know, and we don't have the defenders to be able to be playing like this.
No,
I'm
we
afraid.
don't. We don't. The only thing I'd say, I forgot to say something really, really important. For me, the moment of the night, the moment of the whole match of the evening was watching Kamada come on with 10 minutes to go. It was a wonderful moment for the kid.
And Krunic,
I love. I don't
you got to
please.
question the timing. I said
I was
it
trying.
in the chat.
I
I'm
was
like,
trying not to.
why?
Because I was like, this is Kamada's moment, and Krunic comes on. I like you took it away from him. But it was you could see, did you see when he came on and he like puffed his cheeks? He just couldn't believe his eyes. It was wonderful, wonderful moment. I hope the kid, I hope the kid, goes from strength to strength here. It's a beautiful moment seeing his family in the stands and his mum crying. It's a beautiful thing to see. Let's hope it's the start of something amazing. Seriously.
Yeah, I just want to weigh in on that moment, and other than I said about Krunic, is that let let that moment not be just like a trophy moment because we just don't have anyone else to put on. Yeah, if the kid truly deserves it, and if there are games that you think that you can have 10, 15, 20 minutes, I think it should not be a problem because that's how players develop. And I think especially other clubs do it even within Serie A, but particularly our club seems to be somewhat of a, I wouldn't say exclusively, but because there have been some good players, some young players that have come through. But for large in part, and in brackets due to Pioli, it's very difficult for young players, not even at Kamada's age, but even if you're like 18, 19, to really break into the squad. And I'm not saying it's because their players aren't good. It's because the opportunities. I think we have a manager that likes to play too safe and is not willing to take a risk, especially when it comes to games that you could probably manage it better, or you really don't need like an extra 2 or 3 goals. Yeah, because I've said this before about a few seasons ago when we beat Torino, I think 7-0. We should have opportunities for players, but yeah, that's just my take on that particular moment. But I just want to add on to what you mentioned, and I want to ask you, John. Yes, I do agree with Mike being the man of the match, but he did have his mistake. Do you remember that one particular moment where he passed through the ball and he went to a Fiorentina player?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that did happen. And beyond that, there were also some other very careless mistakes. But you mentioned, you said it right. Is the game management that simply is not there? We went 1 goal up, but I don't know why we needed to be confused like that. They should have been, and I did say it, and I think this is something that Calabria or whoever this someone on the pitch really needs to put onto the team, is that let's calm it down. Yeah, we're 1 goal
Yeah.
up. Let's recollect. Let's try to reorganize ourselves and not turn into this somewhat of a Sunday league. Like, oh, we scored 1 goal. Let's go for like the next 6, 7 goals that we can score. It's not that type of game, because there were genuine moments where we were caught out and it could have been a different scoreline. You remember there was that one moment where Mike was actually 1-on-1. I'm like,
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
hell
Yeah.
how the hell did this happen? If it was Sportiello or any, or even what's his name, Mirante, you would have to pray. You really have to pray. You wonder like, okay, let's let this be the game that these keepers, the second or third choice, pull out miracle save. But it didn't have to lead to that. And I really think that once we start score, because we've seen this throughout this season at this very early stage, when we score, we have to know what we do after we score, after we take the lead, after we get 2 goals. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think there's still a lot of improvement that needs to be made.
I mean, guys, just want to highlight something. This game was definitely a preparation for the Dortmund game because everybody knew before the game that Pulisic wouldn't play the whole game, and we knew that Ruben Loftus-Cheek would come on to get a few minutes, of running time under his belt. And but I did not expect Pulisic to come off and Ruben Loftus-Cheek to replace him. But again, that just goes with the whole thing of just using these games for nothing more than just a warm up for the big Champions League games. And we'll have to see if this pays off on Wednesday. Thank God we got the 3 points, guys. That's all I'm going to say. Thank God we got the 3 points.
I'm sure Pioli also thanks God because he kept him in his job for a little bit longer. All right. So yeah, moving on. And Jeff, just before I cue this next segment of our show, I just want to tell everyone is that we got something special for all our viewers and listeners. We are really, and I don't think any other pod has covered it to this extent. At this point of the season, where we're almost 1/3 into the season, we're gonna have a bit of a courtroom drama here, and we are really going to look into the unholy trinity, as we've labeled it, and what has the verdict been on these 3 guys? Because if I would dial it back all the way back to the beginning of the summer, it was quite the start of that summer mercato. Baldini had just been fired. There's a lot of uncertainty. Tonali was out. It seemed quite a big shakeup because let's face it, at that moment we were in a bit of a mess. Yeah, so we got into the Champions League not through our own merit, but through a courtroom decision. Okay. Sorry, I'm done. Yeah, I'm just seeing your messages now. So yeah, so we knew that something really needed to be done. And this was the first real Mercato to test the Redbird ownership. And we brought a lot of players in after Tonali was sold. So we knew that this season will really be the judgment on these three guys to see whether, they put the money where their mouth is. These three guys can actually do better than the previous management. So, just to summarize how things are going to go from this point onwards, we're going to have it courtroom style. So we're going to have the defense, which is Shane. I don't know how you're going to make it through these guys.
Good luck,
And we're
Shane.
going to have the prosecution, which is John, who is both sides, by the way, both defense and prosecution. They are very well prepared. But I'm going to be the judge. Simply because, I guess by Malaysian standards, maybe I can be bought. Or maybe I've already made my mind up. Or maybe I've already made my mind up before the facts are presented. So yeah, that's going to be the spin on things. So yeah, before that, I mean, just to take into account Andon's comments, see if we can actually cover some of this what he said. Okay, yeah, I agree with you, Andon. I think getting the minutes into Kamada will help him a lot of things, the confidence. But I mean, let's be real, yeah. Any kid or any young player, he's definitely going to make mistakes. But for those mistakes that he makes, regardless of how bad it is, let's not burn him for it, yeah. Kids make mistakes, no matter how good you are, you're going to have that bad game. And let's see.
Yeah, I heard that. That was pretty cool. So he actually went and bought the tickets himself rather than just getting them from the club.
Wow. Amazing.
It's a good thing he did. So it seems like he's a really good lad. It makes so much more sense just to play Kamara instead of Jovic. It makes so much more sense because you're not getting output from Jovic. So, spend those extra couple of minutes, getting action in Kamara's legs. Just makes sense.
Okay. I know you have one more comment, but we're gonna cover it towards the end. So yeah, I think just to kick things off, we're actually gonna have our first defendant, if you can call him that. Let's pull him up.
This guy. So it's gonna be Mr. Pioli.
So yeah, I'll let the defense go first because it seems to be that this might be.
Wow, you want to let the defense go first? Objection.
That's it.
Overruled.
That's it.
Because I want to hear it first because I mean, we've spoken about Pioli quite a lot in past pods, so somewhat we have a little bit of a let's see, we've somewhat made up our mind, but I want to hear it from Shane. I mean, there has to be something that he's done right because we're still in top 4. You could argue that we are, by mathematically, is still in the running for the second start. I mean, Shane, there's got to be a little bit more to this guy, right?
Yeah. Yes, Your Honor. Yeah, he's great.
He's thinking so hard about it.
Yeah.
Or do we need something to motivate you?
Thank you. Hey. That image is actually real. I promise. No. Okay. So, just getting into it, right? I've created a document and I want to share it with everyone. So let me just share that, right? So it can hopefully go some way to kind of presenting my case. So it's kind of hard to see, right? But essentially what it is.
Yeah, put it this way.
There we go. So it's a breakdown, right, of the points that, this is previous to the Fiorentina game. But it's a breakdown of just how many games Pioli has won during his tenure. And it's also a comparison to see how he did in previous clubs, right? So as bad as things are, right, he is actually doing slightly better than he had done in previous clubs, right? So if we go back here, right, and this actually surprised me, just like he did a good job at Inter. Like in terms
of the
points that he won.
Inter are crap.
No, I'm telling you, like just being honest, right? He did a really good job, like in terms of points won or games won. Well, maybe not actually, no, because he also. Yeah, okay, maybe not so much, but Yeah, but we can see there is kind of a track record where I guess with us that he is maybe learning from his mistakes. The problem where he's putting on, it's like you said, John, where he's, putting on a very, very nearly injured Kalulu and then completely wrecking him for 6 months. What I'd like to say in his defense is it's probably senile dementia. So I think, and you really can't judge him based on his bad decisions. It's not his fault. So that's my defense. Pioli is
Wow.
not doing that bad, right? And as well as Pioli not doing that bad, I also want to say as well is keep in mind if we do dump Pioli, right, we've no guarantee of who the next guy is, and he's not going to be, a well-known manager. So I mean,
All right. Hasni, please put up that picture of Shane and Pioli, and I'm going to start. And I'm going
you
to
don't
start
Okay.
even
laying,
need to listen to the prosecution, Hosni. It's fine. I've already
I'm
read
going
No,
to
it.
no, no.
lay
Everyone
into
gets a
it.
turn.
There you go. So, in the summer, Pioli was no longer just head coach. He was promoted to be manager. This meant that he was not just in charge of the first team, but also involved in the transfer market strategy planning. So, this is an important point. My charges against Pioli are he has been involved in the transfer market, so why no CDMs when he knew that Benacer was injured until the winter at the very least? He was selling Tonali. What did he do? Sign and hope the team could cope. Now, my next charge is post game BS evidence. When we lost 3 PSG, this is what he said, and I'm trans. We played our game until 60 minutes, even playing better than PSG. I can't blame my players for their attitude. They did what we had prepared. Just to remind everyone, Mbappe scored in the 32nd minute and Moani on the 53rd. Post Napoli 2-2, Giroud states, we scored, we did not know what to do. On Inter's 5-1 loss, in the first 4 minutes, we were the only ones with the ball. It's normal at the beginning of the season when so much has changed. We were in the game until that 3-1 goal. My next charge to Pioli, tactical bullshittery, formations and throwing away games. Evidence is Udinese's lineup 4-4-2 with Jovic and Giroud up front. We lost it 1-0. Playing a high line against Inter Milan, resulting in a 5-1 loss. Going down to 10 men against Juve, and he decides that the thing to do is to rest players. 1-0 loss. I'm not finished, guys. I'm not finished. The next charge is active injuring of players. Kalulu's injury during the Napoli game. His comment? It was because he should not have played had Kier been well. The next player, Pulisic told me that he felt tightness on 20 minutes, so at half-time we removed him as there was no point in risking him further. Under Pioli, Milan are number 1 in the injury league table. The season alone, our players have missed an equivalent of 36 match days. And I'm just going to list you some of the players. Jovic, Okafor, Krunic, Chukwueze, Ruben Loftus-Cheek, Pulisic, Benacer, Sportiello, Leao, Kier, Pellegrino, Magnan. There comes a point where we have to say enough is enough. Defend that. My
Okay.
lord, please give us a judgment on Pioli.
No, no, no. I'll allow some time for the defense
Remember, I
to break
bribed you
across.
for a reason, Hosni.
No, I'll give some time to the defense for rebuttal, and I'll lead it on a bit. So to the defense, yes,
Yeah.
Pioli has he's bait, and I think the prosecution has a lot of witnesses that he's called to stand indirectly in that way that really supports the
I'm
case.
asking for that
But
evidence to be thrown out of court, please.
no, it's gonna be admitted. But a question to the defense is that yes, those things happen, but is it a case where Pioli is just culpable or he's just guilty in that way? You know what I mean? It's like just it's not really his fault, but he's just the fall guy for all these issues. What do you think, Shane?
Uh, so my defendant has asked me to not answer that question because if I answered it correctly, I'd actually, yeah, he'd be thrown away for life, and the keys would be thrown away from myself. So, no, I think there is a lot to be said where everyone is culpable, and between everyone, I'm actually, I'm not going to say that the players alone are culpable. There is a degree of, the medical team. There is a degree of Pioli being definitely culpable for, very poor decisions, very poor substitutions, questionable formation changes that never seem to work. That high line against Inter was, as you said, shocking. Um, but what's slightly concerning as well is that every Milan fan knows that the medical team is a problem. It has been a problem for years, right? Everyone knows, right? And when the knives are out because someone isn't doing their job properly and someone from the medical team is being fired, Pioli is defending the medical team. And I'm kind of going, I don't understand why you're doing this. Because regardless of what Pioli is asking them to do in training, I would assume it's down to the medical team to basically manage their load and to make sure that they don't get injured. And so the thing is they're not doing this, right? So I think our medical team needs to be fired, and we need to get in someone that knows what they're doing. And for that reason, I guess my client is innocent of all charges. Job
Objection!
done.
Objection! Objection! Objection!
Sustained.
Pioli is defending his medical team from being fired, so he's responsible for that too. Bang! Take that, Shane.
No, but
Okay,
okay.
I want to go
I
home
want to
now.
pose the question to John is that we know a lot about coaches. Yeah, we know a lot about coaches. We know a lot about players and all that because those are the guys really in the spotlight. But when it comes to the medical team, what is then you could say the right indicator to say that okay, they're bad, and we'll get someone else, and it should definitely solve the problems because it's not really like a given thing, right? Because one of the things, and I want to quote really one of the statements that Zlatan made. I don't know if it's a statement or one of those comments that he told the press. Do you guys remember that? I think it was 2 seasons ago, where he spoke to Bakayoko, and Bakayoko was always injured for even though he didn't play, and he had a discussion with Bakayoko about the pitch, and they said, "Oh, the pitch is too hard." And I think it's common knowledge now that some of people know is that the pitch was redone. I think not too long ago. If we talk about training ground, it could consider it somewhat new. So those are the reasons where with the best intentions you want to improve things, but then it's a case where it's not really going to plan, and this is one of the things. And I guess throughout the season, maybe it wasn't really acted on during the summer mercato. We just can't redo the entire Milanello. Yeah, I assume it costs quite a bit of money. So what do you think, John? I mean, are those one of the things that really
Yeah,
diverts a little bit of the blame away from Pioli?
listen. We're famous for having a Milan lab. We're famous for setting up a system. When Berlusconi was in charge and Galliani was there, we're famous for setting up a system that really enhanced players' fitness, prolonged their careers, made a huge difference to our club. Now, we know very well that the person responsible, the man responsible for Milan Lab, the guy overseeing it, left the club, and the results from the fitness center started to drop. And because of that, it was actually shut down for a while. It's been reopened, but it's more a research center. Couple of things I want to say, and we can maybe in the future do an episode about the Milan Medical or whatever, and the theories that were going behind why the original system works so well, because it's really interesting. But some of the things that have been discussed in Italy are that actually the youth team, Abate's team, share a lot of the same facilities, Husney, and there was a comparison of the injury list between the uh, men's team and the youth team, and it's literally 1%. So they're not getting anywhere near as many injuries. Now you can say part of it is age or whatever, but I would say, guys, I think the injuries have been every season that Pioli has been in charge, and actually they've been this season particularly bad. My question is it potentially because he's gone with a 4-3-3 formation that really cannot hold the ball? So, we discussed this game as well. We scored a goal and then we just sunk back. We couldn't hold the ball. We no longer have players that are capable of rotating the ball in midfield and slowing down play. Maybe when Benacer comes in, he might be able to do a bit of a job on that. But as it is right now, we're literally a counter-attacking team that waits for teams and waits for that space. And I think no club can play this aggressive style constantly. And that's again a lot of it down to Pioli. My
Okay.
lord.
So I think considering the two viewpoints, I'm prepared to make a decision, and my judgment is guilty.
Oh,
I
he's put that up.
guess it's no surprise because I've been quite a bit of purely out for the past not just season but seasons. So let's put that plural down. So just to move on to the next guy, but it's a bit of foregone conclusion on Pioli. We go to the CEO of Milan. So Furlan is someone who took over after Gazidis, and no matter what the fans think about Gazidis, is that when he arrived, there's a lot of negativity I felt because of what had happened in Arsenal. So during his time at Arsenal, they weren't that successful. They were doing a lot of what we did. However, in terms of their sporting success, it just wasn't there. Yeah, the big focus on the stadium as well when they moved to the Emirates. So I mean, in terms of the of his role, it's been I think a year and coming up to a year and a half right after Gazidis left, or a year and a bit. I think it's November, maybe it's exactly a year. Yeah, Gazidis left towards the end of last year, I think. So it's but with that amount of time, a lot has happened. So it's let's really take into account the facts and really decide about whether Ferlani deserves to be innocent or is he indeed guilty like Pioli. So I'll let John has the prosecution start with this one.
Right. I'll give you a bit of background on Gazidis in case. So, La Gazzetta dello Sport details he's 43 years old. He has spent 12 years as a portfolio manager for the former owners, Elliott Management. He joined the company in 2010 in London. One of his crimes, he helped finalize Lee Yong-hong's purchase of Milan, as well as the eventual Elliott takeover following the Chinese businessman's departure, if you want to call it that. I'd say, okay, one of his benefits, one of his good things that is during his tenure, what's happened is that the club has achieved its first profit in its last statement in 17 years as the first profit. So he was announced as a replacement for Ivan Gazidis as CEO. Charges against Furlani. Selling Tonali. My first one. My son. He removed my son from the club, and how dare he do that? Right? He was asked questions. Right? Listen. My question as a prosecutor, what does he actually bring to our club? Does he actually do the role of CEO or is just a puppet? He was asked the question, how has the club made a turnaround? And he said, with Elliott, whilst he worked for Elliott, we turned the club around based on 4 pillars. First pillar, sporting success, because a football project and a Milan project doesn't exist unless it is based on success. Cost adjustment, he said, especially related to players. Too expensive and paid too much for the performance they were giving. The third pillar is investment in the commercial area. And the fourth pillar is the stadium. So in his time as CEO, I will give him that he has secured new sponsors and some new partnerships. But he says that sporting success is married to business success. But the sporting success must not come at all costs. Sporting results bring revenues, but everything collapses without the growth decree. And I will talk about the growth decree in a minute. Without it, there will be destruction of Italian football. Therefore, my charge against Giorgio Furlani is that he has exploited the growth decree and filled our squad with players that are not Italian in order to save some money on taxation. But that is going to, in the long run, mean that potentially the club is going to have to sell players. The reason is because the growth decree looks like it's coming to an end in Italy. Now, a big question here. Does Tonali's transfer indicate a strategy of selling key players every year and then reinvesting? He was asked this question. Will all the top players stay? His answer, I don't know, we'll see. Okay? So, let me just tell you a little bit about the growth decree for those of you who are not familiar with it. So, at the end of June 2019, the Italian courts passed a law called the growth decree. And Serie A tries to benefit from something within that law with Article 5, which is also known as the brain drain or il rientro dei cervelli. Actually, if you do a direct translation, that means the reintroduction or re-entering of the brains. Basically, the idea was that Italy has been losing people and talent. They've been going abroad. And so this was an attempt of passing a law that would enable those talented individuals to come back into the country. Now, what it did was to give a tax discount for those who have lived outside of Italy for at least 2 years, and then who promised to work in Italy for a minimum of 2 years. Crucially, the growth decree applies to both Italians and non-Italians, as long as they fill this criteria. But you can see, what is that tax level break? What it basically means that if we bring players who have not lived in Italy for the previous 2 years, we can then give them a 50% tax break on their wages. So if after tax on a 10 million euro wage, with the growth decree, you save 4.8 million euros. Now, if you look at our transfer market, what Giorgio Furlani has clearly done, he has utilized the growth decree to fill a squad with players that he can basically get a price cut deal on. What happens if the Italian government goes ahead with what they are proposing, which is to cut the growth decree as we go forward? We will be forced, because of his plans, to do nothing other than sell players to fill that. So my charge against him is that he has put us in a very dangerous position for the future. I close my case.
Okay. So to the defense.
All right. So it's quite a bit to go through here, right? But in terms of Furlani, or my defendant, I guess, or my clients, right? He's done exactly what he said he would do since he arrived at the club. He's not changed tact. He's done everything that he said he would do. He's acted within the realms of, being financially responsible, I guess. In the context of selling Tonali, I mean, looking at it right now, it was the best deal that was done over the summer. Because we're literally, we got, what was it, 63 million in the end for a guy that's not playing for the rest of the season. So, I mean, it's...
Hang on, are you saying he knew? So are you saying he's guilty of knowing Tonali's position with his gambling?
Definitely not. No. But it was a good deal in hindsight, right? The funds were then used, and we did definitely increase the overall, I guess, ceiling of the squad, right? And we do have a good bit of defense in depth. However, there is that situation where we do seem that we're kind of we seem to realize that we've made a mistake by getting rid of Maldini, and we know that we don't have a voice in the locker room now. And that's kind of why we're going for Ibra, I think. So I think overall, my client, I guess, has done exactly what he said he would do. He would act within the realms of financial fair play. You know, ideally, it would not come uh, it would not come as a result of having to sell players. However, we are playing in Serie A. Serie A is not the most lucrative league. We have to generate money for transfers.
Objection.
Okay.
Forlani is quoted as saying, "Sporting results bring revenues." I agree with that, right? But everything collapses without the growth decree. Without it, it is destruction. So, does this mean that we've been set up for destruction because of the number of players that utilize that tax loophole?
Okay, I'm gonna step in a bit here. So I think that's overruled, and the reason why, and I do want to ask this of you, John, is that this is a guy who, okay, let's face it, yeah, he has no sporting ability, yeah. So he's got no sporting ability. He probably just watches the game like any fan. So he's a corporate guy, yeah. He's a guy who works in the office at the desk. So is and he has to work within the rules. So now I'm thinking is that are we then judging him for things that happen on the pitch because a lot happens there, and, it influences a lot. But then again, he's also constrained in terms of what he's able to do, because what he's doing and what he's done is a lot of what other clubs are doing as well. So if that discretion does come, it's essentially setting the entire Serie A into Serie B in terms of what we're probably able to achieve. So, on the judgment of that man, what do you think about that, John? Is that
Okay, so do we think? I'm going to ask all of you actually. Do you think he's left us more exposed because of the players, the number of players that are utilizing the growth decree compared to other clubs? So the example we have here is, for example, Inter Milan. They brought in what's his name, Turan,
yeah,
based on that,
right? Yeah,
and Juventus brought in George Weah. Whilst we've got Pulisic, Ruben Loftus-Cheek, Reindeers, I could go on.
Chukwueze, yeah,
Yeah, I could. So this is what I'm just saying here. One of the things that I thought a CEO should do is employ someone to have a look at what the legalities of the financial future is going to look like in Italy. This cannot have come as a complete shock to suddenly have said we're going to cut this law, we're going to cut this, which has been going on since 2019. You have to look forward and you have to plan ahead. Now, to me, he's now kind of saying, I mean, in his comments, Shane, I will agree with you. He's not hidden anything. He has been, and he said it, but he's now saying, oh God, the growth decree is literally going to be a problem for us going forward. It's going to be a problem for the whole league, in his opinion. But I think for us, it's particularly bad. And then he's saying even the stadium project is a problem because it's going to put, a burden on us financially. So it kind of makes sense to me, guys. You have to remember, after 2 years, taxation goes back to normal, right? And so he's probably planning all these players to have them for at least those 2 years and then be able to move them on and then replace them and so on. But now that system has disappeared. My question is, what did Forlani do to prepare for this? And it looks to me, and it's for you to judge, has he left us overly exposed?
okay. Shay, do you take this one?
I think because of the financial situation being the way it is, we have to be creative. And oftentimes, when it comes to being creative with finances, you take on a degree of risk. And I think this is what's happened. I think it is very unfortunate. I would say, though, that this could be the reason why we have to sell quite a number of players in the coming transfer window. Not this transfer window, more than likely, the summer, and that's just not good, right? I mean, it will be positive in the way that we would be taking on Italian youngsters, I would hope, which is good. And I think everyone wants to see that. However, it will definitely come at the risk of sporting success. And that is not what we want. So I think he's been very unfortunate. It has been a risk. It isn't being put to bed yet. And I would assume that some of this is political flag waving to see what they can get away with, right? Um, I would hope that they wouldn't change it. Just again, based on the on the amount of players that we have that are benefiting from the growth decree. But yes, I think it's a gamble. It hasn't worked out, but I think overall, as for Furlani's role, I think he has done well. Not great, but he has done well considering it's his first year on the job, right? But he just needs to get a razor, and it'll be fine because he needs to shave that damn beard off. It's awful.
Okay, I'm gonna have a stab at this, and I'm actually gonna put out a different perspective here. So if you were to compare the players that we signed, let's look at the profile. Yeah? The players that we signed largely. Yeah, I'm not talking about all of them, but largely, they have UCL experience. Yeah, and they have a good amount of playing at the highest level. If we wanted to get equivalent players, but let's say for example from Italy or Italian players, number one, I don't think we'll be able to get them because they would already be tied up to our direct rivals. Secondly, probably the price tag to get any of these players, the selling club is going to use the opportunity to essentially just milk us or squeeze us. So with that being said, is that what options does anyone have if you really want to have a good level of quality? I'm not saying the best because we can't afford the best. A good or a decent amount of quality, and to really kickstart our season under new ownership. So the growth decree only supports that. It's just that the intention that we need to have the better players than what we've had. Because last year, a lot of fans, even for me rightly, is that saying that we don't have depth. Uh, Largely, I would agree, but there's also the other perspective saying that the players that we had also weren't really adapted towards they weren't really being brought into the team or into how we were going to be doing things. That's on Pioli, by the way, not on Ferlani. So, yeah, I do understand why the risk is there, but had anyone else, even if Gazidis had remained, I think he would have probably made the same decisions. But let's face it, guys. Ferrari is there because he's a yes man, and he's based on his CV, he's also a messenger boy. So,
I'll say
Cardinales
one thing, guys.
yeah.
I'll say one thing. I think it's clear from the Redbird takeover why Maldini was let go of, why Massara was let go of, why Gazidis left. It was just incompatible. Forlani is compatible with that system because he's doing what the owners want on the business sense. I'll give him that.
Okay, so I'm prepared to deliver my judgment. And by the way, I don't know if you're familiar with this, but there's a Malaysian term that we have for all the politicians that have been let go. It's called discharge not amounting to acquittal. So there's something we have here in Malaysia is that you know the guy's guilty, but you don't want to send him to prison for political reasons. So you say that we'll let you go, but it doesn't mean that you're innocent. So
why
like
would you
it.
want to punish someone that's broken the law when they're rich? It makes no sense.
well, if you need the numbers in parliament, you probably do that. But yeah, that's beside the point. Malaysian judicial system is such. So yeah, we have our third defendant on the dock, and yeah, Shady, we take this one. I think maybe this one is a little bit easier to defend. Mr. Jeffrey Moncada as well, who yeah, I mean, you can tell us a little bit about him and Klein and why you think he's innocent, because I think he has supporters. He actually has genuine fans who stand by this guy.
Yep. Yeah. So I mean, my client, I guess, has a track record of finding amazing talent. Right. So if we look at it, Mbappe was Moncada. There was a few like extra gems that I'm blanking on now, but he found them when he was in charge of the scouting at Monaco. He's a great record of finding, hidden gems from France. So what I have prepared, right, just as a accompanying document.
Oh, what's
These
this?
these are a list of our new acquisitions, right? That we made in the summer. It's very hard to read, which is why I'm sorry I showed it. But essentially, it goes through each player's current market value based on what we bought them for. Right, so what we got them for. So you will see that, with the exception of Chukwueze, we actually underpaid for the majority of our players. So I mean, this
Okay.
is in terms of their market value now, it has either increased or stayed the same since we bought them. And when we bought them, we paid for under market value for the players. Which I think, when you look at the overall quality of the players that have come in for the summer, I think you have to kind of, say that, okay, these were more hits than misses right now. Not all were perfect, but unfortunately, it's not the world we live in. There will be mistakes. But I think overall, when you look at the players that we bought in for under market value that have shown quality right from the get-go, I think Moncada has done a great job. I think there is nothing to answer for my client. I think he's doing a great job, and he's also very handsome, which is why he should be acquitted. Talking from a guy's point of view. So, one
Okay.
second.
Oh, here you go. Also, objection, Your Honor.
Okay. Go ahead.
Do you find Moncada guilty of Jovic? He is guilty of Jovic.
Sustained, but I mean, I guess you can explain this. Is that, can any one in that position get everything right? So I mean, what's your case,
Okay.
John?
Okay. So, in August 2023, Jeffrey Moncada, he used to be a chief scout, right? So, I give you that. He finds talent. He's got a history of finding talent. He was promoted, however. Okay. He was then called for, he is now Rossoneri scouting department, takes over head of sports area, which happens to have been the same job title as, I want to hear it, Husney. Who had
Mr.
that?
PM.
Mr. PM. Mr. PM, Paolo Maldini had that job title.
We can't say his
So,
name here, yeah, in case we get censored.
uh, and so he was given the role. However, he was told that he must follow the tasks assigned to him by the CEO, Giorgio Forlani. So, by association, he is involved in some of the things that have happened in the club. So, yes, my first charge is Jovic. And I understand your point. You can't get them all right. My next charge is Taremi, not getting the guy over the line. Remember, this guy has got a stronger position. He's no longer just a scout. He's now involved in the acquisition of players. And if you compare him to the role of Maldini, not replacing CDMs. Again, same with Pioli. Remember, this is the triumvirate. They're all working together. That was what was said. They're all working closely together to try and fill the squad, and they did not do though. Now, my next charge is that he in no way replaces someone of the stature of Maldini. My point here is that no one renews their contract based on Moncada. No one joins the club based on Moncada. You know, if he turns up to the training ground, do you feel inspired? If he gives you a medal for 100 caps, will you stand there going, oh, thank you, Moncada? No, you won't. So he has helped and he has been instrumental in filling the squad again with foreign talent alongside the other two. And this is to take advantage again of the growth decree. So to me, one of the charges is he has removed Italian talent and does not promote it. And I rest my case.
Okay, I think back to the defense of that one, and I want the defense to answer this one question because, John, you just mentioned it, yeah? So he's not Maldini. Players do come, and I guess Maldini has his own drawing power, yeah? He's able to attract players as well. But, and this question for you, Shane, do you honestly think players think of Maldini as the number one reason to join the club? Because let's be real here. Yeah? These guys need to be paid, if you know what I mean.
You would hope not, because if they are a player that just joined because Paolo Maldini, was at the club, then they're not going to give their best. You would assume when he's not there anymore. I would hope that while I'm still very upset in the way that Maldini left or was fired, I would hope that he, I would hope that Maldini came back to us at a time when he was really needed. We were down in the doldrums. We didn't know what sporting success was for a few years. Maldini came back and he put the ship on a good course. Now it's time for Furlani, for Moncada, for Pioli to basically step up. You would hope that they can do it amicably. I would argue though that unfortunately Pioli just isn't doing it for me. Moncada's main role though, it is more on the scouting side to kind of get the talent in. I believe it's Furlani's job to actually push the deal over the line and to call the players, which again I would find slightly more suspect, right? Because I would think if Moncada called you, you kind of go, oh well, this is the guy that discovered Mbappe. So there is a bit of I guess some bit of prestige with that, right? But
yeah, and also further to that point, okay, I just add this in. Does every club have a legend doing Maldini's job? I don't think so.
No.
But they have CEOs that are very good, and they have managers who are good, and they can pull players in, right? The problem with us is that we've lost that draw. What we have now is we are AC Milan, joined this legendary club. We've got Baresi still there, but as you said, actually, the evidence is right there, isn't it? We are lacking something. How do we know we're lacking something? Because they're trying to bring in Ibrahimovic. They know that there's a gap. The triumvirate has a gap. They can see it. And so they're like, we thought those three could do the job, but actually, it's not enough.
Okay. I'm going to use my judge powers here. Yeah. So in terms of our judgment and how we render the verdict here, it's really in terms of where they are as of today. Okay. But if you look at just the Mercato, and that was like the first test they had, a lot of people actually have agreed with the way that it went. Yeah, despite of what happened in the beginning, Maldini left and Ali and all that. But then if you saw that, hey, they've actually done something, then you move on to when we have game 1 until game 12 we played, and that's where the support starts to dwindle quite a bit. But the impact of these guys really is during that Mercato. After the game is played and the transfer window closes, it's actually mostly down to one guy. Do you agree? And Ibrahimovic or Zlatan coming back, I don't think it's for anything to address the Mercato. I think it's to address the job of one person, which we've said is guilty now. Do you agree with that, John?
Yeah, I think so. I think Ibrahimovic Hasni is a huge kind of, it's like a safety. It's like someone who holds people to a different standard because he's been there and done it. The problem right now is that you don't have someone in the club that, like, you've got Baresi, of course, but he's up in the stands next to Forlani. Who goes to the training ground every single day? I mean, seriously, I'm not joking. I'm still saying Moncada, I'll give him the fact that he's a good scout. I will not take away from him. He is a good scout overall. But the problem is, who goes to the training ground? Who holds those guys responsible? Are they good enough to do it on their own? When you look at those players on the pitch, would you say that they're all capable of pulling themselves up? Well, they should do, but I don't think they do. So,
John, on that point,
yeah.
Just to be a bit of the defense, we had Zlatan last season, yeah? So Zlatan was there. It felt bad, yeah? There were times where it felt really bad as well, even though he was around. So do you think that this, to be honest, I don't know exactly whose idea it is. This is something that I guess is on everyone's radar if you're in Milan management. But who actually pulled the trigger and said that, yeah, it has to be Zlatan in this case?
I think this is coming from. So I think Pioli doesn't want him, hasn't he? Generally, yeah. I think
Yeah.
Krunic. Yeah, no. Uh, I generally think Pioli doesn't want him back because he doesn't like to have himself questioned. Um, but I think someone higher up, it might even have been Cardinale, has gone and said something's off with this team. They're not pushing as hard as they can, and we need to bring someone back. But he's burnt his bridges with Maldini. He can't bring him back, can he? He already asked the guy to do a consultancy job, and the guy's like, "No, I'm not doing that."
Essentially,
That's
demotion, right? It's like, oh, you actually had a big impact
yeah,
at the club.
yeah,
Now you just open the door for all the players when they want to walk in.
yeah. And I think they just kind of like looked around and said, "Who is a player that we could? Who is someone close to the players that they've recently seen who might be able to have that little bit of an input?" And they just thought Ibrahimovic. I don't know, Hasni. Generally, I don't know if Ibrahimovic is going to make a big difference. I really don't. But something needs to shock those players um, into pushing a bit harder. They are not, you know, we collapse in games quite often, and it cannot always be exhaustion. It's got to be something else too.
Okay. So Shane, I guess in defense of Moncada, I mean, is the right solution Zlatan? Not just in defense of Moncada, but also in defense of Pioli and the other guys. Is that is this the right solution? Well, I don't think we've discussed this in detail really.
I don't think so. So the reason being is that obviously Zlatan isn't going to work for free. He's going to require a wage. Surely that wage would be better spent adding it to the current manager's salary and then getting a better manager. Because if
Or a new
you
medical team.
or yeah, to be honest, I like I'm all up for. I mean, yeah, you would never say no to Zlatan coming back to the club, right? But I just think it depends on like, are we really kind of okay in admitting that Pioli just doesn't have the leadership skills required? And if so, why is at the yeah
Hmm.
why is he at the club? Um, That's 100%, Paul. That's what I'm saying. Like, I just don't. I'm all up for the club doing, kind of new ideas, right? Like, and maybe putting Zlatan in there. But like, I think if it's going to be just because we have a manager and we're okay to say about that manager that he's not a leader in the locker room, well, then surely it would just be better off getting a better manager that can be a leader.
And
Um,
by the way, Ibrahimovic does not qualify for the growth decree.
really.
Of course, he doesn't.
Oh no, okay. Right.
So there you
Oh
go.
yeah.
So that's as you said,
Hard
money.
one. That's a
Okay.
hard one.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I think just to round that up, Moncada, I judge him as innocent. Yeah. I
Woo!
Yeah, the reason why I say this is because out of for the job that he's done it, I think we reached back a little bit. Yeah, we reached back to before he was doing his current job. He's an amazing scout. A lot of teams, by the way, a lot of clubs want Moncada. It's not to say just because he works for us that he had to work for us. He could probably join any other club, and I'm sure his services are in demand because of what he actually brings to the table. And for this, you could say first, not even first full year, but for this big period of that he's been in this role, I would actually cut him a bit of slack because maybe he's adjusting, yeah. So as opposed to guy who's probably like with spreadsheets and tables and sending scouts to watch individual games or hearing himself going, he has to get a lot more things done. And I think he's probably got the right team behind him, but he's probably going to need that adjustment. Say that okay, now it's like I got to do a lot more than what I did before. So yeah, I think he's innocent. Just to bring up this point from Paul, yeah, I completely agree with you. Is that we drop easy points, and I think also want to finally bring Andon's comment.
Mm,
So
fair
yeah,
enough.
this
He's purely zero.
Yeah.
Um,
If you could go negative, you would. I know what you mean, though. I know what you mean, and Paul as well. Yeah, it's just someone had to defend Pioli here. unfortunately. And it was
Yeah,
very
you're
hard to
very
do it.
unlucky, Shane. You did a brave
Yeah,
job, man. You had a tough job there. It's like the evidence was just like
that's it.
stacked against
That's it.
him.
That's it.
But like now that we're talking about it,
Oh, time check. Sure.
yeah,
Mm,
now that you're talking about it, it's just an interesting one.
mm,
It's Moncada's role that might require Ibrahimovic to be there. It's not Furlani's role. It's not perhaps Pioli's role. It's this
mm,
new enhanced Moncada role because he's not just. If he was just chief scout, I would have very little to say except for
mm,
Jovic because he's a crime.
mm,
Uh, but maybe it's this enhanced role where he needs a bit of a help. Yeah.
mm,
No, but I don't think Zlatan is that guy because
No,
let's
no,
face
me
it,
neither.
and this is why I thought Maldini was completely mistreated for and disrespected for actually what he did. Maldini not only had to get the players across the line, meaning that okay, he had to actually make an offer that satisfies all parties and actually bring the player to the club, but he also had to handle the renewals, not just him, but him and also with Masara, right?
mm,
But that I think can't be overlooked because it's difficult. This guy, and I think Masara as well, got Rafael Leao to renew with the club.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
could say yeah, everything happens in the background, okay, fine, and whatever it is. But Leao could actually walk away and say that, screw that, I'm going to Man City. I don't care if they put me on the bench, but I'm at least going to get paid a lot of money for it. There are players who actually think like that, but yeah,
Yeah.
credit
Yeah.
to Maldini, and yeah, I don't think Zlatan is able to do something like what Maldini did, especially when it comes to renewal. And what will he say? Like, oh, renew, I'm gonna kill you. Is that really
Yeah.
gonna be the negotiation?
That would be his way, I think. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Paul, just to point out, yesterday I did back Jovic to score the goal, but he didn't. So he's let me down. But we did mention it early on. If you listen to the podcast early on, we did mention that he did put on a good pass for Hernandez for that penalty. So he did do that good job. It's just we're now comparing the overall transfer market and the players that were brought in. Cool.
All right. Well, I think with that, the court session is adjourned, and yeah, we have a score of one defendant guilty, Pioli. No surprise there. For Lani, I think the jury's still out on that, on him. I put the discharge not Mario acquittal, so I'll let him go for now, and we'll see if he gets busted again later. Moncada, I think he's innocent. Yeah, I think we can largely agree on that. Okay,
Right.
and yeah, I think with that, I'd just like to thank everyone else, especially Andor at the beginning and Paul. Yeah, thanks for tuning in, and you can catch us on the next episode, and we'll probably review. By then, I think we're playing Dortmund next. I think right immediately, or
Yeah,
we're playing another.
we
Yeah.
are.
So hopefully we pick up 3 points, and if we don't, probably Pioli will be on his last days. I do honestly expect that because it's going to be big, especially for the club and also for the club finances. So thanks to everyone for tuning in, and yeah, until next time, we'll have another episode. Thanks, John, and also Shane for your rigorous
Forza
defense and
Milan.
also
Have a good one,
prosecution.
guys.
Okay, see you, everyone.
Ciao.
bye bye.
Italia!